I remember being in one class where we had to do a disability simulation with a physical disability. So it had to be an hour long. We had to go off campus to a restaurant or a store, and we could choose, visual impairment, hearing impairment. There was a whole list. So I chose to be in a wheelchair. So let's just say it was quite the adventure on many fronts. Well, let's just say it was a disaster from me not being really great at working a wheelchair and actually like ending up at the bottom of a steep truck dock ramp. But anyway, it was a mess. That's a story for another day. But something I will never forget was how I was treated by people in the store. So I literally experienced the frustration of people just because I was in the aisle and I was in their way and they had to squeeze by. I also felt their unkindness when I dropped something to see if, this is a simulation, so I want to see if they would pick it up, and they wouldn't even pick it up. They just looked at me and walked away. At the same time, I made fast friends with someone else who was also in a wheelchair and came right over and was friendly, wanted to exchange information, which was a little awkward because I'm not really in a wheelchair. Anyway, it was quite the experience. That was only a simulation. It was very limited in time and space and really being even a true experience, but it was impacting. And I just wonder how often we take time to think about what our students who struggle in one way or another are going through, what they're experiencing. So, Cindy, talk with us. You've had a lot of experience in this area. Talk with us about how dyslexic learners cope with life in a classroom. What have you learned about how they feel in our classrooms?
I think the younger kids, like I'm talking kindergartners and first graders, sometime during that year and definitely after Christmas of first grade, they have figured out, okay, that person in front of me can read, the person to my right can read, the person to my left can read, but I can't read.
Yeah.
And they quickly conclude something is wrong with me. By Easter of first grade, they have decided that. They are 6 or 7 years old, and they've already come to that conclusion. The conclusion that comes right after that is, I am going to get out of this as much as I can. And so many times, avoidance becomes the next step to that. It may be suddenly the weakest bladder in the class, or it may be, I am as thirsty as a camel, and I just must go get a drink of water right now. I'm going to digress and tell you the story that was told to me by an adult who I tutored. And he had finished his service in the military. He was 40 years old. He had retired from the military. And his wife said, you are not going to just sit in the house. No, figure out what you're going to do with yourself. And he told her, I can't really read. And so I would like to go back to college and learn a trade, but I can't really read. And I hats off to him and thanks to him for his service, for making it through with that, and also for being transparent with her. Somehow she found me, and she asked me if I would tutor her husband, and I talked to him on the phone to make sure he wanted to learn to read as much as she wanted him to learn to read, and she did. And so he came to me for tutoring lessons, and one of the first lessons, I asked him about his early experience in school. And he said when he was in 9th grade, he had changed schools and that he had made a decision that he would rather be known as a fighter than as the kid who couldn't read. And he said the first time a teacher called on him to read out loud in class, he just stood up and slugged the kid behind him as hard as he could and continued that pattern all through high school because he said he did not want people to know he couldn't read. And he figured it was better to be thought of as mean and scary than dumb.
So sad.
It is so sad. I'm happy to say in 1 year's time, he learned to read. He went on and took his electrician course. He would text me his grades, and he
Oh,
finished 2 years of electrician's course, and he's now doing his apprenticeship to become an
wow.
electrician. So
Three
there you
cheers
go.
for him. That's amazing.
I so admire that. But his story of I would rather be a fighter than someone who can't read, that just breaks my heart.
Yeah, it does.
And I think it's more common than we realize.
Enjoyed this short clip? That was just a sneak peek into a full episode on the Teacher Edition podcast. We are passionate about supporting Christian educators like you. Looking for more inspiration and practical strategies you could use today? Subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts. Brought to you by BJU Press.